a song that really left an impression, like the very first song that was like, okay, that's...
It was probably Smokestack Lightning. My big brother was very into R&B under the older definition of R&B. Rhythm and blues. Yeah, I can still picture it's a yellow and a yellow and red label on the single and all that sort of stuff. So I think, to be fair, my brother Chris was probably a very early and fantastic influence on my musical taste, because he was 8 years older than I am, and he was into Dylan and the blues and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, probably Smokestack Lightning.
And who were the bands that you kind of grew up with?
Well, I mean, John Peel used to have a Saturday afternoon show in the late 60s, early 70s, if I'm remembering this correctly. And certainly one band that absolutely leapt out of the speakers one day was him playing 21st Century Schizo Man by King Crimson, which is still quite a challenging listen, I would say. So yeah, I was into prog early, so it was sort of Yes, Toll, bit of Led Zeppelin, Dylan, and some of the other rock stuff like Deep Purple and what have you, sort of. But definitely Yes and Jethro Tull were early favourites of mine. I think the first proper gig I went to that wasn't, sort of local bands in youth clubs and such like, and I'm guessing, but it kicked off very well insofar as, again, through my big bro, I got a ticket, or he got tickets, to see Iron Butterfly supported by Yes at the Albert Hall, and it was Iron Butterfly's last tour. And legend has it that Yes bought their PA, which was probably the most sophisticated in the world, and that allowed them to carry on making the sounds that they wanted to make as well. So yeah, it's not a bad start. I think I grew up in London, so there were gigs to be seen. The Lyceum was a regular haunt, the Marquee Club, when it was in Wardour Street before it moved several times. So yeah, bands. So early bands, stuff like I would see when I was still at school. We went to see the Groundhogs supported by Gentle Giant. Gentle Giant were an unknown band to me at the time, and they were fantastic. And of course, they've got Portsmouth origins, so it's kind of curious. The Lyceum, I saw bands like Thin Lizzy, Wishbone Ash. Well, my first experience, getting into bands when I was a kid, because I always wanted to be in a band, kind of thing. The local youth clubs were where you rehearsed, certainly where I lived. So there were, sort of older kids with, 2 4x12 Marshall stacks and all that sort of stuff, and we'd take some of that. So I started on drums, which I was hopeless at, and a friend of mine, a guy called Paul Kendall at school, suggested told me there was a saxophone for sale in a junk shop down in Woolwich. So I traded in my drum kit for the saxophone. And it was, it was kind of more interesting and easier to join a band having a different kind of instrument. And so, yeah, I started playing at, sort of rehearsing at the youth club and such like, and and one of those band lineups did lead to a couple of gigs where, eventually it coalesced as a school band. And we made some noise and went out and did stuff. Well, because I like the idea, quite frankly, you think, oh yeah, we'll meet girls like this. Completely wrong. But by the time you figure that out, you like being in a band, so it's too late.